toxic shock syndrome. I'm sure you've heard about it, and in today's video we are going to be talking in depth about that condition. We're going to be dispelling myths, and we're going to talk about some very important truths that you need to know, so make sure you stay tuned to this video. Quinn C.J, Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Quinn C.J. If you are new, I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a women's health coach, and I am here every single week making videos just for you about your body. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about toxic shock syndrome because I feel like we've all heard about it, but I don't know if we've all heard the correct information about it. So today we're gonna get it straight. So I want to try something new. And I want this to be interactive. So as I talk to you about it, I'm going to be putting questions right up here, or is it over here? I think it's over here. And you're going to be able to actually answer the questions that I ask you during the video, so you can kind of test your own knowledge, you know. So if you click the card, once I ask you a question, you can actually click and tell me what you think the answer is. So we'll go into that a little bit more as I get into discussing it and we get to the very first question. All right. Okay, so I think it is pretty safe to say that you don't know anybody that's ever had toxic shock syndrome personally. Is that, can I say that? I know for me growing up, I never knew anybody. I never actually, as I became, you know, a nurse, I never treated anybody with it. It was kind of one of those things that was rare. I always heard it was very rare. And you get it by using large tampons, right? Is that what you heard? If that's what you heard, let's go ahead and jump into the first question. Question number 1, right here. If that's what you heard, go ahead and click that for me and let me know if that's what you know or that's what you always heard as well. Okay, not to start off with a trick question, but that actually is kind of true and false. The true part comes in the fact that, yes, toxic shock syndrome is rare. It is rare, but you don't only get it by using a large tampon. That part is false. Toxic shock syndrome can also be a condition that men get. It can also be a condition that men get. I know that one in itself can be pretty eye-opening because you think it relates to a woman and her period, but no, men can get it because toxic shock comes from a bacteria. So toxic shock syndrome is actually caused by staph or strep A. Staph lives in our body. It lives in our mouth, and on our skin. All right, so next question. Is toxic shock something that we don't, you know, really need to worry about? We may get a little ill and then we, you know, get some antibiotics or something and we'll be all right. Or is it something that we need to treat as an emergency and get ourselves onto the emergency room? What do you think? Go ahead and answer the question for me right here. All right, so the answer to that one is we definitely need to get to the emergency room. I'm gonna go into telling you what the symptoms are for toxic shock, and they sound a lot like the flu. It sounds a lot like the flu, but it ain't the flu, girl. It ain't the flu. You need to be seeing about yourself as soon as you can and getting yourself to that emergency room, because toxic shock is life-threatening. I mean, you could die. So I want to go ahead right now and show you a clip from Tiffany Haddish. You may know her from Girls Trip. She's an actress and comedian. So she actually contracted toxic shock syndrome when she was younger. So she is gonna tell you about it. She was actually in an interview with The Breakfast Club. So just go ahead and watch her speak on it, and then I'll be right back.
Oh, now did you really get toxic shock from a tampon?
Yes, I got toxic shock.
People could die from that.
I'm lucky I lived.
You had it in too long?
No, I was using a big one. What happened was...
What you mean a big one? I don't know nothing about no.
They always tell you that the danger of tampons.
Yeah, see.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so this is like my third period, the third period I ever had, and it was there was no maxi pads or nothing in the house, nothing to use, but underneath the sink there was these super absorbent tampons. So I was like, forget it, I'll put it in. So I put it in, and I only had it in for about 4 or 5 hours, but as soon as I took it out, I started itching, started scratching, and my mom was there, my grandma was there, my mom had came over, and my mom was like, just give her some Herbalife, that's all she need. But everything I ate, I kept throwing up. Every time I drank water, throwing up. My tongue started to like I got a big tongue. It started to shrink, and like and then it got so like swollen and little that it was choking me. I was choking on my tongue. I had scratched holes in all my skin. You know how you go outside chasing the ice cream truck in the summertime? You know, if you go barefoot, you burn your feet a little bit. It was like that all over my body, just burnt. And my grandma was like, I gotta take her to the hospital. And my mom was like, don't take her to the hospital. And my grandma was like, this is why you don't have custody, Leola. This is why this baby is about to die. Look at her eyes. Like, my eyes was sunk in. Like, I was completely dehydrated. And so my grandma took me to Children's Hospital, and they and then the lady, she was like, are you having sex? And I was like, no, but I want to. she was like, well, why are you using tampons? She asked me if I use tampons. I said, yeah, I use one. She said, why are you using tampons? I said, because there's nothing else to use. Are you sure you're not having sex? How did you get it in there? I was like, it took a long time and it hurt really bad, but I got it in there. And I had put the thing, look,
you probably did the same thing I did the first time, because I don't know how you knew how to use a tampon.
You put the whole thing in there?
Just put the whole thing
I
in
did the same thing, and I never put
and
the applicator.
it was so uncomfortable.
I was like, this sucks. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, it was so uncomfortable. And I was like, dang, it was hard to walk and stuff. I was like, this, I don't know why.
Kept sliding out.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why girls like this. And I look back at the directions like, oh, okay.
That's what I did, the same thing. And then they make you put one foot up on the toilet.
Yeah,
and
you feel all weird.
Put it in, and then you sit down with the mirror and you're like, okay, I got to figure out.
So how did they fix it? How did they fix it?
How did they fix the toxic shock? Yeah. So I ended up having to stay in the hospital for like 3 days. They hooked me up with all these IVs and stuff. It's like I was 13, got my first pap smear. They basically broke my hymen. They put like fingers in all your holes. It was the worst. And they was like, it was the worst. And the lady told me, if you ever use tampons again, it'll be like committing suicide. The reason that you're so sick off of the tampon is because they put a chemical in there that is the same chemical they put in rat poisoning. So the bigger the tampon is, the more poison's in it, so you bleed more. So you're allergic to this poison, and that's why you're sick. That's why you have the toxic shock. Now, you can't use, if you ever use it, it's committing suicide. So I guess if you want to kill yourself, you can use the tampon.
I was like, for the rest of your life?
Hey y'all, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but if you are enjoying this video, consider subscribing and joining the community by clicking that red subscribe button under the video and then tapping the bell right beside it so you're notified every time a new video comes out. I appreciate you and thank you so much for watching. Now let's go ahead and get back to the video. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next question, and that is, okay, I already told you that using a tampon is not the only way that you can get the condition, but is it, or does it put you at a greater risk? Are you at a greater risk if you're using a Super Plus tampon and you on your light day? So your cycle is very light and you're using Super Plus tampon. Does that put you at a greater risk of contracting toxic shock? You know what to do. Okay, so the answer is yes, it actually does put you at a greater risk. You definitely need to use a tampon that is appropriate for the length or appropriate for the amount of your cycle, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? If it's a light day, you need to wear like a regular tampon, or is it a light tampon? I don't wear tampons anymore, but you need to use a light tampon. If you're having a super heavy day, then that's the day you wear super heavy, not on your light day. Don't do that. If you're using a larger tampon than you need to be using, then that is also helping to create an environment for bacteria to grow. So the bacteria grows, it releases the toxins into our blood, and that's when the symptoms come, and that's when we are in trouble. So you might be wondering, is it contagious? Like, am I gonna get it if she got it? Here you go. So the answer is no. No, it's not like an STD, and it is not contagious. Just because I got it does not mean you are at risk of getting it at all. So to break this down as far as what it is, I want to be real clear as to what it is and how you get it. So we already have staph and strep living in our nose, in our mouth, and on our skin. But what happens is, if you're wearing a tampon, or if you're already sick, if you're wearing a tampon, that just causes a nice place for all of the staph and stuff to just, you know, hang out, produce more and more and more of the staph and the strep. And then, ooh, it's having a party down up in there, and it's like releasing toxins into your blood. It's like, woo, woo, you know, releasing it all into your blood, and that is when you get sick. So if you already, let's say you're not even on your cycle, let's say you're a man. If you're a man and you have an exposure to the staph bacteria, so let's say you was ill and you might be recovering from a wound or surgery or a burn, something like that, that can still trigger toxic shock syndrome, because all it is an overgrowth of that bacteria. So I hope I explained that good to you. If not, I'm going to link some articles where you can go and read about toxic shock syndrome on your own. So let's go ahead and talk about these symptoms so you will know what to look for. Fever, rash, and the rash is not just a regular rash. It often resembles a sunburn on the soles of your feet and the palms of your hand. Skin peeling, abnormally low blood pressure, vomiting, diarrhea, severe muscle pain, mucus or discharge coming from the vagina, the eyes, or the throat, feeling disoriented, and changes in your consciousness are all symptoms of toxic shock syndrome. So if you suffer from any of those things, ladies and men, then make sure you get yourself on to the emergency room promptly. So to recap, toxic shock syndrome is a complication of a bacterial infection. It can be in men and women, and tampons are not the only cause. You can also have that happen if you have a burn, a wound, or some type of skin infection. So to simply put it, toxic shock syndrome is a complication of a bacterial infection. Staph and strep live on our bodies, in our noses, in our mouths, every day. It's there all the time. But what causes us to have toxic shock syndrome is when there is an overgrowth of the bacteria. So yes, if you have a tampon on, you're creating an environment that, although that staph and that strep is just loving, it's just down there pooling, and therefore it makes you more susceptible for it to release the toxins into your body. But this can also happen if you have a wound, if you have a burn on the skin as well. All those toxins can, you know, everything can pool, and then they release the toxins into your body. And death is not the only complication of this. I've also seen stories of women and men having to have their limbs amputated because of having this. So it's life-threatening, and it's also super serious in the fact that you could actually have to have a part of your body removed. I appreciate you so much for taking your time out to watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to give me a like and share this with somebody that you think it may be able to help.